Welcome to the DCTV News at Noon special interview Spotlight. I'm Kelsey Kiesling, and today we have a representative from the American Red Cross from the Western Slope of Colorado, Eric Myers, and you're the Executive Director of the Western Slope of Colorado.
That's correct.
Of the Colorado
Yep,
chapter.
I'm the Executive Director of the American Red Cross of Western Colorado. Our chapter covers 27 counties along the Western Slope, Dolores County being one of those.
Okay. And here in the United States, there seem to be 4 service areas that the Red Cross is targeting. The first listed on the organization's website is disaster relief. Can you tell us a little bit about your role in the case of natural disaster for such a rural area?
Oh, absolutely. So the mission of the Red Cross is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers. That prevention and alleviation of human suffering can take a lot of different forms. One of the main things that we do in Colorado is with our disaster programs, our disaster preparedness, response, and recovery programs. Disasters can strike communities large and small. The impacts in large communities can be very similar to the ones that you see in smaller communities as well. At the Red Cross, we really strive to make sure that our communities are prepared for disasters that might come. If and when disasters do strike, that our communities ready to respond, and that the Red Cross sticks with those communities through the recovery process. Some of the main disasters or emergencies that we plan for in Western Colorado obviously are wildfires, flash floods as were referenced during the weather report today. Being able to make sure that communities know what to do should there be a large-scale disaster or evacuation that happens.
Okay. Is there a somewhat recent example of where the Red Cross has provided help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Locally?
Here in the southwest corner of the state, one of the biggest things that we've responded to are wildfires, and the wildfire evacuations that have taken place. Just as recently as the summer of 2013, wildfires impacted every corner of our state. We had shelters open all throughout Colorado, and probably the largest forest fire of that summer was the West Fork Complex fire that evacuated thousands and pushed a lot of people out to shelters as close here to South Fork, but definitely the potential is always around to be able to open shelters here locally in Dolores and Montezuma County.
I've heard that there's an upcoming Red Cross event here in Dolores.
Yep. One of the main things we do, so the Red Cross is really driven by local volunteers. The Red Cross isn't a physical building that people go to get help. It's an organization that comes to people when they need help. The way that we do that is by building our capacity of volunteers locally. We want the Red Cross in Dove Creek to be run and staffed by Red Cross volunteers who live here in the community, who know the community. So with that, we are actually hosting a volunteer open house. We're really looking to find people who are interested in becoming Red Cross volunteers and hosting a Red Cross open house on June 16th at the Dove Creek Community Center from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock that evening, where we'll present a little bit more about the Red Cross, what the volunteer opportunities look like. But what we're hoping for is that we can actually get people to sign up and register to become volunteers before that June 16th event, so we can actually, during that event, start really getting some momentum built around building a Red Cross here in Dove Creek.
So at that event, potential volunteers will be learning about what they can do and
Yep, yeah, we'll be talking about a lot of the different volunteer opportunities that take place within our disaster cycle services world of the preparedness, response, and recovery. We'll be looking for volunteers who are interested in becoming what we call disaster action team members, and those are volunteers that go out and respond to some of our smaller disasters like single-family house fires.
Okay.
We'll be looking for volunteers who are interested in becoming shelter volunteers. So if we do have a large-scale evacuation, people who can greet the community and set up a shelter and be able to provide that comfort, care, and hope that people need after they've experienced a disaster. A number of other opportunities, hopefully looking for people who are excited about preparing a community before a disaster strikes, working with kids to be able to teach preparedness, working with homeowners to make homes better prepared. So there's a lot of opportunities that we'll be sharing, and I think there's a really, really awesome potential here in the community to make the Red Cross as exciting as we want here in Dove Creek.
And I'm also aware that the Red Cross representatives in our area are working with our Dolores Emergency Management team. Can you tell us what you expect to be working on with that?
Sure. It's extremely important that the Red Cross aligns with our government partners, that local emergency managers in all of our areas know what the Red Cross's resources are, know how to get in touch with us when they need us, and know what services we can provide. Working locally with emergency managers, we're able to make sure that we're preparing for the right disasters, keeping our eyes on the right projects that we can support with, and being able to add what I really view as that bandwidth of a large national organization of the American Red Cross to be able to bring some of those resources and education and training to communities like that. And so working with local emergency managers is a critical key to our success. That way they know us, we know them, and we're not meeting when there's smoke in the air.
Yeah. And are wildfires pretty much your biggest worry for this area? Or
Wildfires and floods, but in all honesty, the largest disaster that Red Cross responds to are single-family house fires. Nationwide, the Red Cross responds to about 65,000 single-family house fires every year. And if you think about it, if you've lost your home to a house fire, you're still incredibly impacted by that loss. So Red Cross volunteers, like our disaster action team members, are able to go meet with families after they've had a house fire, help them get back on their feet, help them replace food, clothing, medication, and really stick with them to help kind of on that road to recovery, get them moving forward. So the big disasters that would impact the entire community, wildfires, potential lowland area flooding would be some of the larger ones here. But those single-family house fires are disasters that are happening every day that we train volunteers to be able to respond to.
Yeah, and I think we had a few fires here last year.
There have been.
Quite a few, yeah. And here at DCTV, the last 2 weeks we've been discussing the topic of preparedness as it relates individually as well as for our small community. The Red Cross has been involved with the devastating recent Canadian fires. Are there some suggestions you would have for how people should prepare? Or are there resources on your website for people to download?
There definitely are. My recommendation to folks who are looking to prepare for a disaster is one, there's three real steps that we encourage people to take, and it's to get an evacuation kit. So build one of those at home that contains clothing, water, some food, some snacks, and access to important documents that you'd want to be able to evacuate quickly with. So you get a kit, make a plan. So come up with a plan. If you get the evacuation notice that you're going to head out and meet your family members somewhere else and be able to have a plan for your pets, your livestock, a number of other things, and practice that plan. It's really easy to say, I have an evacuation plan, but to be able to practice it with your family and your friends and your pets and be able to practice that plan and then really stay informed. It's really important to know how your community will notify you of a disaster, whether that's through a reverse 911 or an emergency text. And so really finding out those ways to stay informed during a disaster. So kind of those three easy steps of get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. All of that information can be found. We've got a lot of that on our website, but that's also something we're really wanting to do here in the community. Find volunteers who have a penchant for preparedness, who want to become preparedness educators and share some of that message. But always, the website's a great resource, www.redcross.org, as a wealth of information there around preparedness activities.
I'm kind of amazed more people don't practice the evacuation plans and everything, because to me they seem like they'd be kind of fun.
Well,
practice.
I've got an 8-year-old son, and I can tell you he does fire drills or lockdown drills at his school almost once a month, and they practice. We don't do them that frequently at my house, and so if it's easy, when it's required, you see organizations that make sure that you do it. But it's as easy as picking a day each month to test your smoke alarms and see if everybody can get out of their home in less than 2 minutes.
And thank you so much for stopping in. We really appreciate your time. If any viewer has any follow-up questions, is there a best method to contact you?
Oh, yep, absolutely. So for people who are interested in volunteering, I recommend getting in touch with our volunteer services manager, Julie Schrader, who can be reached at 970 242-6646. There's also, as mentioned earlier, a lot of information on our website about how to volunteer. So if you go to redcross.org/Colorado, there's a tab that you can click on that says volunteer, and it'll ask you to input your zip code, and you can start the volunteer process. And really just encouraging the community to get involved. The Red Cross is the Red Cross really is the volunteers in the community that provide the services, and so we're looking for that, for people to join our team and be able to support the community in preparedness, response, and recovery.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing all of this
My pleasure.
information with us. I'm thinking I might want to show up to that
All right.
event on June 16th.
We've got a lot of opportunities that we're very excited to share. You know, outside of that box that a lot of people think about when they think about the Red Cross, a number of opportunities that are available.
I'm really excited for that, just so you know. And thank you for watching this DCTV interview spotlight. If you have any suggestions or would like to schedule an interview with the station, contact us by email at dcbnnews@gmail.com or call the station at 970-677-4119. That's it for now. See you next time. Thank you for coming in.